Good evening, folks. Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It is time for a transfer live stream after the big news that Shane Duffy has finally joined Celtic on a season-long loan from Brighton. Tonight, I'm joined by Declan and Callum to talk over the Duffy deal. We'll talk about David Turnbull as well, and we'll come to everybody's favourite topic, ideal starting 11s. Declan, we've been linked with Shane Duffy for weeks now, but are you delighted that he's finally here?
I'm delighted. You know, we've been needing a big no-nonsense centre-half in. He's got a good record at Brighton. Won Player of the Year down there. He's consistent in terms of his appearances. There was in the season, Brighton finished 15th. He played 37 out of the 38 games, so that's consistency that we're in as a defender that's always fit. And he's 30-plus caps for the Republic of Ireland, so he's played at a good stage, and he's played at European Championships for Ireland, so he knows what it's like to play in the big arenas. He knows what it's like to play in the big stage. So I think it'll be a welcome addition to Neil Lennon's squad going forward. But as you say, it's maybe a week too late, but we won't dwell on the past. Look forward to the future, and he's a good addition to the squad.
100%. If you're just joining us, you can ask your questions in the live chat box below. We'll pick out some good ones as we go through. Connor Bothwick's asking, what's the formation and team sheet you guys want to see going forward? We'll get to that, Connor. Myself, Callum and Declan are all going to give our ideal starting 11s towards the end of the video. Callum, commanding, good in the air, likes the physical side of the game. Do you think Shane Duffy's got exactly what the Celtic defence is needing?
Definitely. I said to you, Paul, a few weeks ago when this was starting to grow arms and legs, we were talking about it. As Declan's just pointed out, it's something that's maybe a week too late. We just don't know. But I think, I said a couple of weeks ago, it's a coup for Celtic to even get somebody like this right on his prime, 28 years of age. And what goes missing, what a lot of people think that he's just that solid, no-nonsense defender, which he is, but he can actually play out for the back. He's just maybe not as versatile as the centre-backs that Brighton have right now. So he's still not a lesser defender. I think his passing accuracy when he made 19 appearances last season was 81%. For the back, so playing for the Premier League, the boy can play. Clearly, that he can play for the back as well. So that definitely goes missing sometimes when they think of Shane Duffy, that he's just an absolute tank and he'll win everything, which he does. I think his duels won was like 98 duels that he'd won as well throughout the season, which is a really good start for only making 19 appearances. So he's definitely something Celtic are missing at the back. Julian and I they're both great defenders, but they both miss that physicality when they're coming up against some tall physical strikers. So Duffy is, for me, he's a brilliant signing. He's the marquee signing this transfer window so far, I believe.
Declan, I heard Billy Reid on the radio tonight. He's the assistant manager at Brighton, and he says Shane Duffy's just unlucky because that's basically the strongest area of their squad centre half. And they couldn't guarantee him a start every single week. Do you think it speaks volumes that he's chosen to come here? Those Premier League clubs interested in him. You can clearly see that it's his absolute dream to play for Celtic, and as Callum says, we're getting him in his prime. I
think Brighton signed a guy for about 15 million last season, so you know they've splashed the cash in that area. But we are getting him in his prime, and it's going to add a lot of bonuses. You know, I is still 22, and I think a guy like Duffy, to talk him through games is going to be beneficial to him if he decides to stay at the club. But it's good that you're looking at a guy like that. I mean, there was a lot of questions last week asked about professionalism at Celtic, nonsense put out there about people hiring coaches, which is just absolute rubbish. But when you've got a player of his standard wanting that move to Celtic, it's good that he's got the hunger and the desire to come and add to this squad and what's going to be a massive season. And if you look back at the centenary season, it's always good to have that wee bunch of Irish guys in your squad, like we had with Packy Bonner and Mike McCarthy, etc., just to add it and know what the club's about. Obviously, we'll get guys like Scott, Callum, Jamesy that know what this season is about, but a guy like that, you know, he's made his colours, brought his colours to the mast today. Talked about being over at Celtic Park. He's no one overload like Brendan Rodgers did, but it's clear that he's obviously a Celtic fan, and even the guys around him. Saw an interview with Hendricks earlier, the Burnley midfielder, and his gaffer as well, who have said he's a Celtic supporter. So it's good to have a guy like that in the dressing room, and I'm sure Neil Lennon will be glad to get that one done.
Aye, 100%, Callum. You can tell by all the guys on Twitter, Ireland players, former Ireland players, all wishing him good luck. You can tell that this is a move that he definitely wanted.
Aye, you can just tell, even that video that went viral a good few weeks ago, him in the pub in Derry, you just knew that's when it started growing arms and legs. And that's where we've been lucky that I think Duffy himself, this has been his dream. It's not the best standard or level that he's coming to. He's obviously taking a step down, but he's also taking a step massively up to the club that he's coming to. He's going to be, I mean, if we can secure the 10, then he would be put down as an absolute legend, part of that team. So for him to push that through from Brighton, because as you say, West Ham, West Brom, they were all pushing for him as well, but he's also had a big part in the saying of where he wants to go and where he wants to play football, and luckily enough he's picked us.
Aye, absolutely. Declan, critics might say that this is a loan deal. I know some people in the support don't like loan deals, but it's around £2 million. The loan fee, I think we're paying 25 grand of his 45 grand a week wage. So by no means is this a cheap option. This is a good bit of business by the club by the looks of it.
You need to utilise the market. We've already splashed the cash this market, 5 million in a goalkeeper and a striker each, respectively. So you need to utilise the market. If that was the deal that to be done, that was the only deal that could be done. It just, whether it was a loan deal or permanent, it was good to get him on a loan. I think he's only under contract at Brighton until next year. So with the possibility of that, we could also be seeing the £2 million loan fee then turn into a permanent move and a free transfer next year if he's willing to take the drop in wages. But utilising the market, I think it would be obviously better to plan for the future. But I think we're glad to just get bodies in the door, and we're seeing the club back the manager and transfers, which is positive, step in the right direction for this season.
Definitely. I want to go to a question here. Jerry Collins asking, do you think it will take Shane Duffy a month to get into the team? This is something that I want to talk about when we come to Tumble as well. I think a lot of supporters have been quite critical of the time it takes signings to get into the team, and we've seen the implications of that in the past 2 seasons of the Champions League qualifiers, Callum. You would think, I don't know where Brighton were at in the pre-season work, but you would think that Shane Duffy's going to get into the team pretty soon.
I think he'll go into the game against Ross County. He'll get thrown right in. I just think with the international games, it's a bonus for Celtic that he can play these games. The Premier League starts back in the 12th of September, or when we play Ross County. So his fitness obviously was up there. Maybe he's just his game time wasn't there. Aye, but so he's going to play these 2 international games for the Republic of Ireland, which sets him up in good stead for then to come to us. I think they're playing Bulgaria, then Finland. So it's two decent sides that he's going to come against, and he'll get put in. But just a wee point to that, where people will maybe saying that we're spending $2 million outlay on him. When you look back at our history on centre backs, you look at Marvin Compere, $1.5 million, dud 1 game. Jack Hendry loaned out. I think he cost us just over £1 million. So that's more already than what we are paying for this loan fee. So it's about spending the money in the right areas, and Duffy is that marquee signing where we've actually spent it in the correct area. People might go, oh, well, it's $2 million in a loan fee, it's only a loan. Well, he's going to bring more than what the 2 players I've just mentioned has over the last 2.5, 3 years combined of what they had together.
I agree with both of these. I think this is the signing that we've been crying out for. I think we've got good qualities at centre half. Julian and I are good football players. Positionally they're good, they're quick. But we don't have that, and we've seen it so many times. Somebody who relishes that physical side of the game. He's big, he's physical, and he won't be bullied. There's no chance Shane Duffy will be bullied by a Kabamba or a Dykes. I know Dykes is gone now, but that ilk of player, I don't think that's going to happen to Shane Duffy. Moving on, David Turnbull. Since the last time we've done a transfer live stream, David Turnbull did join about 14 months after he nearly joined the first time, Declan. We've got massive competition in that area of the park, but I think we're getting a really good player with a lot of potential in him.
Yeah, 15 goals in midfield speaks for itself. As a young player coming through the ranks at Motherwell, he won the Football Writers Player of the Year award. He's, to me, the most exciting talent in the country, Scottish talent, and I think he's a really good player. I still think there'll be departures in the midfield by the end of this window, but he's a good addition to the squad, and it's good that Celtic kept in for him. Nearly never went after another midfielder. I know Sorrow came in, but respectively there was obviously a kind of agreement there that he would still go for him, and he's proven to everybody how much ability he's got and trust in himself to come back from that horrific injury, build himself back up, and then get this move to Celtic. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the team.
Callum, everybody said it, but it does speak volumes for him, doesn't it, to come back for that injury. and he's came back in the games he's played for Motherwell this season. He's looked brilliant. Do you think, obviously, we've got Ncham, who can get in that position? I know that's not Ncham's ideal position, but he can get in it to start every week. Christie's there as well. I know Tom Rogic looks like he's about to leave. How much game time do you expect David Turnbull to get this season?
I don't know. I think Ncham will leave by October. I think he'll be sold, one of the players. I think he'll be gone. I think Turnbull, what he offers something that nobody else can offer in our midfield. Is he's a box-to-box, maybe like a Stuart Armstrong. That's what we don't have. We've missed that. I feel as Stuart Armstrong never played every game, but he did rack up amount of games, maybe in his 20s. I think Turnbull could maybe be that. Maybe not this season, because he still needs to make that change and he'll adapt. Well, Duffy's more of a professional in the sense of he's been around the game a lot longer. He's played at a very high level. He'll go right in a team with Turnbull. I think we'll get maybe a game here, a game there, but I think the longer the season goes, he will be more an influential player than maybe what some fans think. But as I says, he's 15 goals. He's been Motherwell's best player at the start of this season, even though Motherwell are in horrible form. He was their standout player. And as I says, he's the only one that he can carry a ball from 60, 70 yards. He can run with the ball at his feet. He's tall, he's strong, he's everything that I think that we just lack sometimes. Brown, McGregor, Holt, and then Cham, I feel, wants to have that position. And when we, as I've said countless times, when we play the three of them, I don't think it works. And Cham's, I don't think he works in the 10 role either. So I think David Turnbull can play both roles. I think he's, and that's probably why Celtic have had to pay £2.5 million. That's a lot of money in Scottish terms to another Scottish team. So it's obviously what Celtic see in him, and they see him as maybe somebody like a Stuart Armstrong that could get us important goals throughout the season.
Declan, just to come back to Jerry's question about Shane Duffy there, do you think it will be long before we see Turnbull in the team? And if you were pushed for a ballpark figure in terms of appearances this season, how many do you think you'll get?
I think it depends. I'm sure the manager will use him sparingly. I think it'll probably be the biggest impact coming off the bench. I mean, we saw in the Kilmarnock game that we really lacked any kind of creativity coming off the bench. So I think in games when you're maybe, either drawing or looking for a bit of a spark, you'll be the guy to come on. Probably around that 15 kind of appearances mark, I'd maybe imagine, in his first season. But he's definitely a buy for the future, because Scott will be kind of weaned out the team. And I imagine that Callum saying that Ncham will go before the end of this window. I think he will. I don't see Ryan Christie actually staying about too much longer. His dad's made it quite clear that he fancies the Riches English football. He's been about the place with Inverness and Aberdeen, so he won't be at the club forever. So possibly a bigger impact next season, but for this season it will certainly add to the squad. 15 appearances, I would say, and certainly coming off the bench and making impacts in games for us.
That's the transfers in. Transfers out, Callum, do you expect any movement soon? As Declan says, we have spent quite a bit of money so far this summer. You would expect that there is some players who are on the way out. Speculation continuing about Christopher Ayer and his agent maybe looking to force a move away. You've mentioned Ncham already. Do you expect one or both of those to maybe leave? As
I've always said, Paul, if the money's right, the club will take it, and then they'll try and reinvest it in the way they see fit. I think Cham's, I think he's definitely gone. With the signing of David Turnbull, I don't think he looks at that and goes, well, I can't get in the team already, and he's one for the future. And so I think he'll go. Depends on the money. Celtic really need to stand firm on it and try and get the most that they can. He's also only got 2 years left in his contract, so that's what makes me think that he will go, because Celtic don't let their contracts run down to a year. Or I think it was actually Stuart Armstrong who got down to a year, and luckily enough he gave us an extra year, and that's how we could recoup some of the money and get $7 million for him. So for me, Ncham's gone by October. If the money's right for Ayer, I think he'll go as well, but it would need to be in the ballpark between 15 and 20 million. I think Celtic would take that. So it's going to be an interesting window to see, but they need to have people lined up in case, because this, as I said, this season's so important. And if Ayer was to go, then we really need to strengthen again in that area. We can't bring in somebody that's maybe like a project or 1920. We need somebody that's maybe not a signing like a Duffy, but we need somebody maybe like a Julian, somebody that is coming with a bit of pedigree, somebody that we can get. Because as you say, if we sell Ncham and we sell Ayer, you're talking in the mix of maybe £30 million we're bringing in. So that's going to recoup the money that we've lost to the Champions League, which we know year in, year out, the club do that. So as I say, if the money is right, we know that the club will accept it and they'll move on and they'll try and get other targets.
Declan, who do you think's maybe on the way out? Anybody else we've not mentioned?
No, I would agree with Champ probably leaving. I would like to see Ayer stay because he's still young, and if there can be a deal there, a kind of contract deal done, maybe a bit of an extension to keep him just for if it's just this season. As I mentioned before, Ryan Christie's another possibility. That contract's I think been on the table a wee while, no movement with it. Apart from that, no, I think Edward will stay personally. I don't see him going, and I think it'd be daft to punt him.
Aye, absolutely. I just wanted to touch though, I think somebody down south, a journalist down south was linking Arsenal with Odsonne Edouard and even made the suggestion that Celtic are looking to sell. I don't know if that's just pure sensationalism for his transfer window podcast. I think it was Duncan Castles. But Callum, can he be for sale at any price? Can he?
Do you know what? I think he is. I think that guy is. I think he's actually sniffing around the right area. I think we all denied it with Kieran Tierney when that first happened. They were like, no chance. Celtic are looking to get Kieran Tierney out the door. And obviously with the money, and that's what I'm saying, with the Champions League exit, the club then do need that money to balance the books of our astronomical wages that we pay year in, year out. So there might be a little bit of legs in that, I don't know, but I'm hoping that the board can get him tied down to another contract. Just give him what he needs, give him what he wants, because the guy is our out-and-out best player, and he's the difference that will be this season, whether we walk away with history and 10 in a row or we don't.
Absolutely. Before we move on to the teams, I just want to get a quick brief answer from both of you. Louise Lang's asking, now feeling much better about centre-back options, but I feel Greg Taylor still isn't good enough. Thoughts? Declan, where else do you think we need to strengthen left backs? Obviously a big one, but keep it brief. What other positions do you think we need to add before we can say we're happy with the business coming in this window?
I would say definitely another left back, possibly another centre half, just as long as it's lined up in case Ayer decides to go. The right hand side, depending on formation, you might need another right winger, but apart from that, I would say good to go. Apart from that,
Callum, do you agree?
I echo the words that Declan said. Definitely a left back is a must for me. If Greg Taylor's injured and we don't know what's happening in Bolingoli, then we have nobody. So a left back's a definite. I'd like to see another centre back coming in, and as Declan says, I'd love to see somebody come in and push James Forrest, because that's when we see the best of him.
Absolutely. Right, we'll get to everybody's ideal starting 11s. I do the starting 11 prediction every week, as you know. And every week in the comments, people are crying out for why don't you tell us the team that you would pick? Because what does the team that I would pick matter? It's not going to be the team that I would pick, because it's always the team that I think Neil Lennon will pick. We'll start, Callum, will you give us your formation and your ideal starting 11?
Well, surely everybody's going to agree. It's a 3-5-2 formation. That's surely everybody's agreeing with that.
There's any controversy there, mate. Aye.
So we'll go with Barkas in goals. We'll go with Christopher Ayer, the three centre-backs, with Duffy in the middle, Julian to the left. Depending on the games, it would be on the right wing back would be Frimpong/Forrest, just depending on the game. On the other sides for the left wing back, it would be between Elyounoussi and Taylor. As I said, depending on the game as well. A bit higher games, maybe like Aberdeen and the Hibs and Old Firms, then you might need to go a little bit more defensive. But against the small teams, you can just go a bit more gun-ho. In the middle of the park, it's going to be the trusted two, Brown and McGregor. Don't think you can pitch them out yet. Ryan Christie in the 10 with Ajeti and Edward up top. That would be my strongest team, I think, right now.
I like it, mate. I like it. Declan, fire away.
That's exactly the same team I would go with.
Is it? There you
exactly
go.
the same team I would. I'd probably say, to me, Forrest is a stickler for the right wing back, just because he's always played. We saw what he can do on Sunday. If he can do that more often, and Frimpong's impact coming off the bench has been sensational. Actually, we saw that wee bit of the old Jeremy Frimpong back. But again, split between Taylor and Elyounoussi, probably Elyounoussi, when we're maybe going against your Hamiltons or whatever. But when you're needing to be a wee bit more defensive, Taylor can go there. But apart from that, everything else is how I would go.
Right, I'm going to throw a wee curveball. And it's in the wing back position. I think obviously Barkas will go Julian on the right hand side, Shane Duffy in the centre of the three, and Christopher Ayer on the left hand side of the three. Jeremy Frimpong right wing back. I'm going to put James Forrest left on the left hand side. In midfield, Scott Brown, Callum McGregor, and Ryan Christie in front of them, and Ajeti and Edward up front. The thing I want to say about midfield though is I think and this is probably why I don't put my preferred team in the starting 11 predictions, because I would like to see maybe McGregor and Cham with Christie in front of them in league games, even maybe weed in David Turnbull gradually as well, and use Scott Brown similarly to how Liverpool used James Milner. Certainly, I think in home domestic games against maybe the bottom six, this is when we should be trying to get used to a midfield without Scott Brown and gradually get towards how the team will look and feel without Scott Brown being there, because he's not going to go on forever. So I'd maybe rotate, maybe for want of a better word, I'd maybe rotate Scott Brown in that deeper position. And the wing backs is obviously a problem, because you don't want to have two out-and-out wingers playing as the wing backs, because in any game where you're going to be tested defensively, you're going to get hurt out wide if you've got Forrest on one side and El Younousi on the other. So that's why I've got Frimpong in there on the right hand side, Forrest cutting into the left hand side. I know a lot of people think that's maybe not his best position. I don't know where that leaves El Younousi. As I say, if you have two out and out wingers out there, I just think you leave yourself open defensively. But I don't think we can have Ajeti, and I've said this before, I don't think we can have Forrest, El Younousi, Ajeti and Edouard in the same team. I just don't see how it can happen, particularly if we're playing 3-5-2. Don't know what you think of that.
No, probably not. Just because they're too attack minded, as you say, you just can't. Maybe Elyounoussi getting used up top with either Edouard or Ajeti, but I don't see, even though that's the team I'd probably go with, I just don't see it happening playing Elyounoussi and Forrest as wing backs, because defensively suspect at times, and I just wouldn't trust that.
I think, sorry Paul, I think the only time you would see that is when if Celtic can manage to put some points on the board ahead of second place, and then we find a little bit of a gap. That's the only time you're probably going to see that happening, because we would have the luxury of being able to do that. It's not going to happen this season, but until that scenario does happen, because this season's just it's massive, so we're not going to tinker with teams like that. So that's probably why it won't happen, but you never know.
See, if you were pushed though in the big games, you're going to the 4-2-3-1. What would your team be for that formation? Because
that's what I was going to say. Obviously, I think we're unanimous 3-5-2 in domestic games for most of the domestic games, if not all of them. But obviously, when we go to Europe, I don't think we're going to set up 3-5-2. Certainly not against bigger opposition. So I think that if it was 4-2-3-1, much the same as the team the way it is now, I think if Christopher Ajer is the one who's most likely to go, then it would be Duffy and Julian at centre half. You need to have Taylor right now, because we don't have any other left backs. I'd probably go for Frimpong right back. The midfield, again, probably the same as I've said. Any combination of those three, Brown, McGregor, Christie and Cham. And then I'd have, obviously, Edouard up front, Ajeti from the bench, and you'd probably have Elyounoussi and Forrest, even though we're looking for more consistency for Elyounoussi.
I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, did we play a 3-5-2 against Lazio away? Did we not match them when they played that? And Johnny Hayes was a left wing back?
Aye, it was Elyounoussi. Elyounoussi played the sort of just behind Edouard, just off him.
Yep. Aye. It was probably more a 3-4-1-1. I think it was just playing behind.
Aye.
Right, but that shows you then we can go up against. I mean, Lazio are anything better than anything that we come up against week in, week out. So it shows you that Neil Lennon does trust that system. So I don't know, you might see a wee surprise. That's what we need to have. We need to have something that's not predictable, and teams know what we're going to play. Sometimes the 4-2-3-1, teams just stifle us up the park. You've seen it already with the way Dundee United were defending, Kilmarnock, and it doesn't make it easy on the plastic pitches either. So we know teams are going to be like that. So we have to be able to adapt throughout this season. We have to change, and we have to catch teams on the cold, so they don't know, what's that happening? It's a different system, and they get mind blown by it. We can't be predictable this season. So for me, I think the 3-5-2 might actually happen a lot more than probably what we think, and even in the bigger games, it actually might happen as well.
Declan, 10 days time, we play Ross County. Provided Edouard is fit, do you think Neil Lennon will go 3-5-2?
I would hope he would go 3-5-2. I mean, we saw the fluidity in that second half of 3-5-2, and he obviously likes the formation. We saw the change in football post-January playing that football. It was brilliant to watch. I mean, apart from the game at Livingston, it was absolutely excellent. We were absolutely hammering teams and taking goals offside. So the manager obviously likes the formation. He played in it a lot under Martin. So I think we've got the personnel now to be trusted to go and play that formation. So I don't see why not. And there's certainly cover there now even at the back, you've got Beaton, El Hamed that can slot into a back three. So, no, I'd certainly go for it.
Aye, absolutely. I think it's not very often the Celtic support is unanimous in something, but I think we all want to see 3-5-2 as soon as possible. That's all we've got time for tonight. Like the video, comment your own thoughts below. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be back later on in the week with another video looking back at Celtic's start to the season, and then next week for the build-up to Ross County after the international break. Cheers.